silence before we start. I'm in. Commissioners, you've seen the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Whitmer. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Alexander. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes carry. The floor is open for public comment.
Thank you. I never get this chance at home for a whole half hour. So where should I start? No, I am amazed that more people don't come to these things. Just thank you to be here, to thank you for what y'all done. And you've got 3 new commissioners, well, not new, but reelected. And I know that everybody in this community honors you for this, because I know that the weight of responsibility and of service that you do far outweighs the glory you receive. And I, for one, and I do this a number of times because I really believe it. We really, really do appreciate it. And I'm so glad it's you and not me. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Someone told me a long time ago when I was first on a town council that if you want to see stuff done in a hurry, you're in the wrong place. He says it takes years, sometimes months and years in a municipality to get things done. But there's a reason for that, because you've got public scrutiny, you've got rules to go by that honor the fiduciary responsibility you have to the community, and you've got to follow those rules and keep everything above board. So it does take a long time, but thank you, Tom, for recognizing that. And it took you long enough to think about that, but we appreciate you coming forward. Anyone else? Does the newspaper have any questions? Not right now. Okay.
Speak and appreciate the balanced view that you give. So we're pleased to have you here and hope you'll stay a long time.
Anyone else? Question, comment? If not, we can adjourn and reconvene at 7 o'clock when we have the regular meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I have a motion from Kitty Fouché, Commissioner Fouché. Do I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Blake. Any questions and or comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, we'll just relax a little bit until 7 o'clock and then we'll get started with the meeting. our clock at 7. It's time to start the meeting. If everyone would stand, face the flag, and let's say the Pledge of Allegiance together. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. So I'll just bow our heads in a moment of silence before we start the meeting, please. I'm in. Commissioners, you've had a chance to peruse the agenda. I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Whitmer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second from Commissioner Otto. Any discussion and or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Commissioners, before the meeting, I think you got a letter from Angie from a citizen, Shelley Stevens, and if you would be aware of that letter and read it, and she has concerns about the cell tower up on South Carolina Terrace. I want to introduce to you, welcome Rob Jackson, who is the Buncombe County's newest superintendent of public education. Rob?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you so very much for being able to spend just a few moments with you here this evening. I can't put into words how blessed I feel to be able to return home to the Valley. I grew up in Swannanoa and attended Buncombe County schools and worked my way through after serving in the Navy, starting out as a school secretary and as a custodian, but eventually became a teacher and a principal. And now I've served for about 8 years as superintendent. And to have the opportunity to now return home to Buncombe County Schools is indeed a blessing. A blessing because of what has always made our school system so great, and that's the relationships we have. And so this evening, I'm here simply to thank each of you for the great relationship our school system enjoys with the town of Longstreet and all the municipalities in Buncombe County, and to pledge my commitment and our commitment to continue to do just like you, which is to serve our families, for in our case across Buncombe County, but specifically here to the town of Longstreet. Having now visited all 45 of our schools in my first couple of weeks back in the school system, I can share with you that I've left every single school incredibly impressed, especially as I left Black Mountain Primary School, Black Mountain Elementary School, Charles D. Owen Middle School, and Charles D. Owen High School. I've been incredibly impressed by the academic performance of our students, by the artistic performance of our students as we've begun to enjoy holiday concerts and some of our all-county band and all-county chorus concerts, and by the athletic accomplishments of our students. Here on this end of the county, we're very proud that the Charles D. Owen High School men's cross-country team just won the state championship, and the men's soccer team just won the state championships. There'll be a lot of state championship rings being handed out at Charles D. Owen High School. So again, I just wanted to stop by for just a moment to thank you for the partnership we've enjoyed with the town and commit to you that we're going to continue to do our level best for the children of Buncombe County, for the children who live right here. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Superintendent, and thank you for coming tonight and introducing yourselves to us. I think that's the first time since I've been here that a superintendent's come to one of our council meetings, and I do appreciate that. We do enjoy seeing our school bus come up here every day. Thank goodness it goes around the gate instead of trying to go through it like so many have done in the past. But we do appreciate all you do and all the hard work you put into the school, as well as the teachers and all the support staff that you have. Thank you so much. And since you've been visiting all these town council meetings and going on everywhere, you're excused for the evening if you want to go.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a nice evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Superintendent. On the consent agenda tonight is the October 13th Town Council Public Forum, the October 13th Town Council Meeting, and the October 17th Town Forum Meeting minutes. Any questions on any of those? By adopting the agenda, you approve those minutes. Ben, do you have any comments tonight?
Mayor, the only comment I would have, and it may be a little premature, but either you or Mayor Pro Tem Widmer or any of the other commissioners may want to update the town in regard to the LAP grant application.
Either Tom or Mason, whoever.
Go ahead.
As you may recall, last spring, we submitted a request for a grant called a LAP grant through the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And that grant was to do some work with the Texas Road Bridge. We heard a couple months later that we indeed had gotten that grant in the amount of $191,000. Of which about 20% of it was town funds, and the remaining balance were LAP grant funds. That was the good news. The bad news was that they told us that that money would not be available probably until late 2026 or early 2027. In fact, we just had an update meeting with them last week. And the first thing that they told us was that time frame has moved up and we will receive that money in October of next year, of 2023. So we will not have to wait and we can move ahead with the plans that we have for the Texas Road Bridge.
How much again was that?
191,000.
Thank you, Tom. Anything else, Ben, other than that?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioners, you've received,
I do have a question for Ben. Ben, we didn't have a meeting in November, so we didn't get a November report, but did the stormwater plan get submitted by October 31?
Yes, sir. It certainly did by the deadline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
okay. Commissioners, you've received the administration report, the planning and zoning report, police, public works and water, sanitation and streets. Are there any questions on any of those reports or any comments? Okay, we open the floor now for public comment. Don't everybody jump up at once. Okay, seeing no one moving toward the microphone. We'll have no old business tonight. We'll move right into new business. And I have the great honor of swearing in 3 old new commissioners. And do y'all want to do it one at a time or all 3 of you at once? Let's do it one at a time. Katie, you want to come up and hold the Bible for Tom? Angie, have you got an oath over there?
Thank you, Katie. It's a sacrifice for you too.
Okay. Tom, I'm gonna let you just read it.
I, Thomas Whitmer, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are part or may be established for the government thereof, that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of North Carolina, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, and that I will well and truly execute the duties of the office of Commissioner in the town of Montreat, according to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God.
Thank you, Tom. Who all's getting pictures? Do you need another? Is anybody else taking pictures? You want us to turn towards you? Come on, Katie. Come on, Tom. This is a photo op. Thank you. Nice. Tom, if you'll sign this, I'll. Mason, do you have one of those too? Oh, here it is. You want to step up? Hold this Bible. Okay. Okay.
I, Mason Blake, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of North Carolina, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, and that I will well and truly execute the duties of the office of Commissioner of the Town of Montreat according to the best of my knowledge and ability. So help me God.
Thank you. Mason, if you'll sign that.
All right. I, Ken Otto, do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are and may be established for the government thereof, that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of North Carolina, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, that I will well and truly execute the duties of the office of Commissioner of the Town of Montreat according to the best of my knowledge and ability. So help me God.
Good deal. Not for me, didn't. Katie? Guys,
Thank you, guys.
if y'all will,
Rest of us appreciate you. The girls appreciate the guys.
if y'all will be sure and sign those and hold them, then I'll sign them here after the meeting or shortly thereafter. Okay, oh, we need to elect a mayor pro tem now. Consideration of a nomination and election for mayor pro tem. Floor is open.
Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint Mason Blake as Mayor Pro Tem.
Have a motion to nominate Mason Blake. We'll have a second on that.
Second.
Have a second from Kid Otto. Are there any more nominations? If not, we'll move to the election. All those in favor of Mason Blake being Mayor Pro Tem signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Mason.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Lavanya Reese, it's your turn to present the annual financial audit. And thank y'all so much for all y'all did working with us. Really do appreciate it.
I think this has to be the warmest welcome that I've ever received to come to an audit report. So there's an old saying that the third time's the charm. So this is the third and last time you will see me in 2022. And I don't plan on showing up for a whole nother year. So normally that's when I show up. So again, I want to start by thanking you for your patience, for Ben coming in the middle of this, for Angie stepping in, at the end of this, and just, your patience, diligence in getting this done, getting things caught up. And it really was a feat, on our part, but very much on your part. So, going to give you a quick synopsis of what happened in fiscal year 22. We had no internal control related matters. For a local government your size, that's pretty remarkable. I told you that at the last report. In most cases, municipalities don't have the resources in place, and there's some type of internal control issue, typically a segregation of duties. Sometimes it's a financial reporting and having that finance officer in place, but there was no internal control related issues that were noted. We had no disagreements with management over accounting principles or reporting policies, and also no difficulties getting information. Obviously, I was here back in, I believe it was July or August, presenting the 21. So the fact that we were able to turn this around in a short period of time, there was obviously no difficulties in getting information. There was also no compliance or accountability violations that were noted in the financial statements. That's in note 2, if there were to be. So that would be your fund balance policy. As we've noted in the past, that would also be any budgetary violations that were noted throughout the year. So there were none of those listed in the financials. You are back in compliance with your minimum fund balance policy. So if you remember, you're required to have 35% or more available fund balance of your budgeted expenditures in the general fund. So that number for fiscal year 22 had increased to about 53%, which was up from 29% in 21 and 16% back in 2020. So as of October 31st, 2022, all audits are current. The local government commission, they've been very quick in approving these audit reports. So we have final approval and you have the final reports in front of you. So we gave unmodified audit opinions. That is the clean opinion on the government wide and also the major fund financial statements. So there was only one major fund for fiscal year 22. So in prior audits, if you remember, the capital projects fund was considered a major fund, and it really is. It's a mathematical calculation based on total assets or liabilities or revenues or expenses on each fund, but there was no other individual funds that rose to the LGC requiring it to be audited as major. So from the government-wide financial statements, total assets increased about $315,000. You had over a $500,000 increase in cash. Decreases in property and equipment offset that $500,000 increase, and that's just due to routine depreciation. Total liabilities, so your assets increased, total liabilities decreased about $420,000. So your liabilities are mostly renovations for town hall, the associated debt, and also your pension related debt. So when your assets are increasing and your liabilities are decreasing, that means your net worth, your net position is increasing to the tune of, for fiscal year 22, of about $480,000. So net position at the end of 22 was 8.4 million. So what makes up that 8.4 million? Predominantly 6.4 million of investment in capital assets, but you have 1.7 million in unrestricted net position. Total revenues increased about 250,000. Expenses only increased about 86,000. So definitely not into proportion, which is a good item. The general fund balance was about 1.1 million at the end of the fiscal year, which was an increase of 440,000. You can see the trend here from the previous audit reports. You can see these increases, which is definitely attributable to you as the board, to management, and really buckling down and keeping those expenses in check. General fund actual revenues were about $2 million, which was 220,000 in excess of what was budgeted. So expenses were about $220,000 less than what was budgeted. Just a couple with your water fund assets, very similar. 2022 and 2021 for the water fund look almost identical. Assets about 2.3 million, liabilities about 320, net position of almost 2 million, and net income of 17,000. Your net property valuation for the town for the fiscal year was 289 million, which resulted in assessments of 1.2 million for that fiscal year. And you've consistently maintained almost 100%, 99.9% property tax collections and 100% in registered motor vehicles in the town for the past several years.
Any questions for Livonia?
Livonia, the 99.9% collections, how does that compare to other municipalities? Do you have any idea?
It's very, so the statewide of North Carolina, that number's in the financials, and you would think coming off of municipality season, I would have that number memorized, but the statewide collection rate is around 90. The statewide collection is 99.96. I'm sorry, statewide is 99.12. So statewide for this, for North Carolina, most municipalities are, I guess it depends. I guess it depends on where the municipality is located. Some of those numbers are smaller. Most of what we see is usually in the 97 to 99% range.
And can I just bring one thing to your attention?
Sure.
First of all, thank you. 3 audits in 1 year is just incredible. It really is. And each time it gets better.
It does get better.
I just want to bring one thing to your attention on page 89, under the miscellaneous stats. 15 days, about 15 days before this was published or the year closed, we switched our form of government. So we are no longer a mayor council form. As of June 30th, we were a council manager form.
Okay, we can make that change going into 2023. This is supplemental information, so it's not going to have a bearing on the audit.
No big deal.
Yes, so we can definitely make that note for 2023 and make sure that gets updated. And that's assuming that you're going to do an annual comprehensive report for 2023, which I assume you will. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Livonia?
Well, I just like to add, you mentioned that this was a feat. It really was a remarkable feat. And I want to also, in addition to thanking you, thank our town staff because they just did a crackerjack job. It really tremendous. Get a clean report like this after everything we've been through, 3 audits in 1 year. It's over the moon. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
They've seen enough of our folks. They're like,
3
"Please."
audits in 1 year and having lost our financial person, and Angie stepped in along with your cohort, Debbie, and y'all were so kind and so gracious in working with our staff and helping them to gather all the information that they needed, that y'all needed. And we do appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you. I will pass that along to my team. So I have a fantastic team and I'm sure that you guys don't want to see us show up for several months. But we are available. If you have questions, then you can call us or email us and we will assist in any way we can.
Thank you, Livonia.
Thank you.
Ben.
I would just echo what Commissioner Widmer said. It's been a pleasure working with you, Livonia, and your team. Not on just from our end, but how you help us on just day-to-day operations. It's just not an audit and financial statements and where y'all come in and help us and lead us and guide us. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate
On
that.
behalf of staff.
Thank you.
Livonia, you can go home too now if you want to.
I'm gonna go home and see if I can catch my teenager before she goes to bed.
Okay, do that. Thank you for coming tonight. Item D on the agenda is the consideration of stormwater system conveyance. Barry Creasman. Barry?
Mr. Mayor, Council, we have had, Mr. Solowski, petition us for, to take over a stormwater system that is in the upper Chapman area. He put this system in years ago when he started the development up there. And, Daniel and myself went by today while it was raining and was actually able to see the system in action, to check it out. And it's a really good system. Everything looked good, everything checked out good. And, you know, as far as with inspections, it would be easier for us to actually have control of that. It being in the roadway, and Daniel and myself are certified inspectors for it now, so it would just be easier for us to control the inspections and the maintenance on that system if we were to actually own it.
Any questions of Barry?
Barry, that system was put, educate me on this, but was that system not put in based off of the town's oversight and
Yes, sir.
to their, our recommendations as the town or above those?
Yes, sir.
correct?
Everything that was Mr. Slawski did in that development was overseen by the town, from the water to the stormwater. The MSD, he did the specifications per MSD on that up through there. But yes, sir, it's above and beyond what we would require. It, like I say, it's a really good system.
So from your standpoint, it makes sense for us to,
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It really does.
This is the one that's right in the intersection of Chapman Road up there, right above the ball field.
Yes, sir. Right there
Okay.
where you start to turn up the hill there, it starts,
Okay,
it
right
actually comes
where
out
I
there.
have to stop and
Yep.
gas for breath.
That's it.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the petition of dedication from Robert Solowski, the stormwater system.
I have a
Second.
motion from Commissioner Boucher. Do I have a second?
second,
Second from Commissioner Otto. Questions and or discussion?
Barry gave us a really quick overview, but when you look at his report that he gave us, the report was very well done. Thank you, Barry.
Any other comments or questions? All those in favor of the motion to accept or approve, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Item E, next one on the agenda is consideration of a new no parking signage on Appalachian Way. Chief Aaron?
Keep our equipment together here. For your consideration this evening, yes, board action requests, requesting new no parking signage on a portion of Appalachian Way. Looking up the road on the right-hand side, it's a portion that falls in between Arkansas and Florida. This has been a growing problem over the past few weeks with mostly students apparently parking on the side of the road. Up until this point, well, actually, as of right now, they are parking in accordance of our ordinance, roadside parking. Unfortunately, they are causing some ongoing damage to the roadway, not only in the right of way itself, but more than likely onto private property where those cars are parking.
And these are the photos that were.
These are photos. Thank you, Josh. These are photos I
good.
took today. It started out with 4 or 5 cars parking there each day. Now it's climbed to 8 or 9. Today, if you'll look at this photo, was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There was actually one more car and they're not all parking parallel to the road. As you can see in this photo, one basically is backed up into somebody's backyard, and there's actually another one further down that did the same thing. The main problem is this is a greenway. area here. There's greenways on either side of Appalachian as you go up. This is a greenway area that is just past College Hall across from the greenway along this Kitchen Branch and on the other side of the street. And it's not designed for parking. It will completely tear up the greenway. This shows you the mud that's just developed in the last couple of days. It'll all be a muddy mess in a few weeks if we don't prohibit the students from parking. I do note that I love our college students. I smile and wave at them every day as I come down the hill, but this is just them making a mess, and there are other places for them to park that cost money. They've got to get a parking tag, and these are folks that are trying to save a buck, and I get that, but they're tearing up a scenic corridor in Montreat, and so I intend to support the suggestion by the chief.
Mason, that street at the end of the 8th car, is that Florida Terrace there?
Yes, that's Florida Terrace down there at the bottom. And it comes right up to Arkansas. Right above this is Jenny Porter's house.
So Commissioner Blake, I've probably been in contact along with Officer Aaron here for probably the past 4 or 5, if not longer years with the college. And I'll say the college reached out to me this year. They were proactive in talking about, again, before we started getting complaints, we're just saying, hey, here's some problem areas. We're trying to be proactive and help the town with this. So I appreciate that about the college. And so I think we're all in agreement that, we want to work with the college yet. We want to clean up some of these. And I think, in fact, Officer Aaron and I spent about 30 minutes tonight prior, not talking about this, but talking about some other hot spots that maybe we'll address in the future. That being said, if we come in and we put signs in tomorrow, or when, as soon as possible, whenever they go in, is there a possibility as we educate these students somewhat with that to have maybe a stronger presence for a while to just say, hey, at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, when classes start in the mornings, maybe suggesting more patrol through there to say, hey, I see you, maybe you've parked here for the past 6 months or the past 3 years, but we're going to clean this up and it's no longer. Is there a way that we can sort of do that, not harass them, but yet educate them to help expedite cleaning that area up?
Yeah, I certainly think so. Like you pointed out, we have been in talks with college folks, Daniel Bennett, Dean of Students, Bill Hensley, Director of Public Safety up there. Bill and I usually talk about this about every couple of days. So the college is certainly not turning a blind eye or ear to this. They are concerned and they want to work with us in looking at various elements here. I will point out that Appalachian is not our only concern. We do have some other problematic areas, but we're going to have to eat this elephant one bite at a time. And some of these things will be more in the short term as far as erection of signs there on Appalachian. We have the streets department has replaced aging signs that have faded out, signs that have somehow disappeared over the past few years on Missouri. So those have been rectified. And we're looking at harsher, more stringent policing in that area there. And then, of course, the problematic area on Lookout Road, which is a little bit more complicated, but we have some longer term solutions that we'd like to see in that. 2 things I would like to point out. In this particular area, if you look at the screen here, that yellow circle there is that area that you're seeing in Commissioner Blake's photos here. That's where we're requesting the new signage go in. When I was drafting the board action request, I literally stopped typing mid-sentence because I thought the vehicles that are there are going to be displaced somewhere. My concern is we're going to see those moving down Appalachian, and we're going to see the area from Geneva up towards South Carolina potentially affected. So while there's not a proposal in this board action request for signage in that area, that is maybe something for consideration. Also, the timeline when this would be enacted, depending on y'all's guidance on what you would like us to do on this. Those signs could go start installation as soon as Monday morning. Guys get nice and fueled by coffee and ready to go. I would like to point out that the college will be going on their Christmas break, I believe about midweek next week. They will be out and return sometime in early to mid-January. So there is a thought process of if we're implementing something new, maybe we start a fresh start with the students in January when they come back and they're nice and rested and attentive. And we can say, okay, things are changing from here.
The chief and I talked about maybe putting a notice on because these cars tend to be the same cars every day on their windshield saying, you know, change is coming, but we're rather than mess with everybody's minds when they're in finals, and that's
Right,
the last
right.
time I wanted anybody messing with my mind. We just let them know change is coming, and they'll be there when they get back and get them.
Actually, an email went out to the students, pretty much saying that verbatim, from Bill Hensley, earlier today.
Are the students required to have a parking pass?
Technically, yes. If they are bringing a vehicle with them to Montreat, they are required to purchase one of those stickers. It's a tiered system, and you've seen them on the vehicles. They're gold in color, they're blue in color, green and gray will denote various staff. The gold colored stickers, basically that's the gold package. You get to park in the parking lots there. Any of the blue stickers, by the way it's written out, should be parking down on the Vance campus and utilizing the shuttle service that the college provides. That's where we're really seeing the problem here is the kids trying to make things convenient for themselves and park in closer proximity to the dorms they live in, eating at the Cavalier Cafe, or plain and simple, just classes.
Well, y'all been up there and looked. If y'all looked at, do these cars have stickers at all?
There's actually a pretty low percentage that do not purchase the stickers at all. That's the one you'll traditionally see doing the roadside parking.
So they're avoiding spending money and parking on our streets.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Also,
Okay.
apparently there have been some vehicles that have just been flat out removing their stickers once they figured out they could maybe lessen the attention they're drawing to themselves.
Let's let them figure another way. I would think. I mean, that's just. I understand saving a few bucks, but I like the implementation of in January and, you know, when they come back from school, having, you know, taken care of this.
David, I appreciate yours and the team that you all have been working on. I know that you met last week with the college representatives and MRA and staff here as well. And appreciate that quick action on Appalachian Way. I will tell you, though, that I was disappointed the lookout was not a part of it. I do understand that there are deeper issues, but when I heard you say long-term solution, that scares me. As you all are looking into it, how about a temporary solution, putting signs up like you're doing on Appalachian Way, at least until you get your studies done and make your changes. I know there's some unique issues there, but you know, we got an aesthetic issue on Appalachian Way. We have a public safety issue on Lookout because it's down to almost less than one way, depending upon how those cars are parking. And you know that situation far better than I do. So could we add to this motion that we have or amend the motion that we have a solution to Lookout, even if it's a preliminary solution, but action taken by the February town council meeting? Is that
We can take action tonight. You can just make a motion.
as part of this motion or a
So
separate?
there hasn't been a motion made yet. We've had a lot of discussion and I should not have allowed y'all to have all this discussion without a motion being on the floor. So we need a motion to proceed to either approve or deny the installation of no parking signs in the designated area.
I move to approve the installation of new no parking signage in the designated area.
I have a motion from Commissioner Alexander. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Blake. Now, further discussion.
So to look out, I've spent some time on this, and certainly correct me where I'm maybe confused on the issue, but I agree with what you're saying. And I look at it kind of two ways. About from the library up to where the parking lot entrance is, there's no parking. There's residential homes there.
Actually, it goes up further than that. It does go up to Yale.
Well, you know, what I'm saying, I don't think there's any from the parking lot entrance on Lookout back down to the library. I don't think there's any no parking signs on the right.
That is
side.
correct. You're correct.
Then just beyond that, you start getting some no parking signs in front of some of those houses that go up to Chapman, I believe. Or Yale. Is it Yale first and then Chapman?
That's correct.
Right.
That first sign is going to start, I believe that it's 226
Okay,
as the address on Lookout, and then moving all the way up to Yale, and then some existing signs past that. When we erected those signs there, I'll be honest with you, I've got a little bit of buyer's remorse on that lowest one, simply because it sits directly in front of 226. And I've always been concerned that may be a burden on that particular residence, even though they do have a driveway access.
but then going back down, part of the issue why we've not put signs there, if I'm not mistaken, is because that is the parking for those residential homes there to the right.
Yes, that's correct.
And so
At
it
least
gets
two.
a little tricky in the fact that, well, you know, all of a sudden now we put up no parking signs. Well, how do we determine, is this the residence? Is this a student or whatever? So you know, my thought there, and again, if we can figure out a way to skin that, Kat, you know, I'm open to that. And I know we were talking about things that have gone on in Chapel Hills, things going on in Raleigh, and ways that colleges, you know, work on some of these things. So again, I'm open for that, Commissioner Weber. But what I would say is, from where the no parking signs start, are we putting a hard no and keeping that clean? And I would say that some of the times I've been up there, you know, I see cars parking in the no parking. So I'm thinking, are we even enforcing that part? Not to put you on the spot, but yet are we cleaning that portion up? And then what can we do to be creative from where we got no parking back down?
But we're talking about Appalachian. Lookout is not in motion, not been made on Lookout. So we're talking about Appalachian only.
But okay, I'm fine with Appalachian, but I thought we were going to introduce a Lookout.
No, all the motion that's on the floor is to put them on Appalachian.
Okay,
In my opinion, Lookout's really going to take a lot more to look at.
I would agree. I would agree.
Agree.
So I would like to just vote on this.
That's what the motion is. Any further discussion on Appalachian? Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion to put no parking signs on that section of Appalachian, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carry. Thank you, guys.
Now, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
may I suggest a motion?
It's not on the agenda. You really need to put it
So I
on the
just got
agenda for the
phased
next
out.
meeting, isn't that right? Tom or Ben?
I think you could
Okay,
amend
make your
the
motion.
motion because you're talking about the no parking.
Okay,
So
go ahead and make a motion then, Tom.
Fellow commissioners, I agree with everything that's been said. We've got 3 people out of 8 houses on that section of Lookout that don't have driveways, which means that they have to park on the street. But in the same situation as we've got on Appalachian, we have students that don't want to spend, what is it, $276, David? For a parking sticker. That's a gold sticker, I think, isn't it?
I believe, I'm not entirely
Yeah.
sure on the dollar amount there.
But we really do have a public safety issue on Lookout. Yeah, it would be great if you were able to enforce any no parking up where the signs are. But the real problem is where the cars are parking. So what I would like to do is introduce a motion that there be a plan for Lookout Road to alleviate the parking issue on the, what would that be, west side of the street. And that plan be presented in February at the next meeting.
So your motion is to develop a plan to look at Lookout Road parking issues and to come back with a plan
By February.
by February. Okay. Kent, will you work with the chief on that plan?
Yes, Jeff.
I know, but I'm asking. Would you?
Absolutely.
Okay. Jane, would you work with them? Okay, the three of y'all work together on that plan then? Okay, got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Commissioner Alexander. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you all.
Kayla, I believe you're up. We have consideration of a text amendment on the for the subdivision ordinance. Kayla, you always scare me when you bring all that paperwork up here.
I just want to be prepared. All right. Good evening, board members. For the record, my name is Kayla DiChristina, and I am the zoning administrator for the town of Montreat. I have two text amendments for review by the board tonight. The first text amendment, TA 202201, is a series of text amendments to the town of Montreat subdivision ordinance that were put forth by the zoning administrator on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, specifically Mayor Pro Tem Whitmer. Next slide, please. So the purpose of these amendments is to bring the subdivision ordinance into compliance with state statute revisions under 160D Article 8. As I'm sure you all remember, a year and a half, 2 years ago, the state redid all of the development regulations that subdivision utilizes and took everything that the municipalities and the counties used and put them all together. Before they were in separate areas. So every planning and zoning jurisdiction had to redo all of their ordinances. Somehow the subdivision ordinance and then the wireless communication ordinance still have deficiencies when it comes to the new regulations. So that was the purpose behind both of these text amendments. And while we were in there, myself and the Planning and Zoning Commission also made some general changes to offer clarification and correct some other procedures. So the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed these amendments at their October 13th, 2022 and November 10th, 2022 meetings, and they voted 7-0 to approve TA 2022-01 with additional amendments that the commission members put forth at their November meeting. So before proceeding with my presentation, I'd like to give you guys the option of how you feel it would be best to review these amendments. In my presentation, I go over a general category of state statute revisions, some new definitions we've added, and some procedures we've corrected. So we could do it that way, or we could go section by section. So I'll leave it up to the board to tell me what the best way to communicate this information is. I will say most of the language, if not all of it, came directly from the state statute and is essentially copy and pasted. So first way. Okay, that sounds good. All right, next slide, please. So the first section of revisions is the state statute revisions. Mostly it was to correct the citation of where you find subdivision development regulations, which 160A was what used to govern municipalities. Now it's 160D. We were also missing one of the exempt subdivision provisions, and we added that the review officer is the designated party to certify that plats meet the subdivision ordinance. Next slide, please. So under the state statute, the zoning administrator doesn't have the authority to make discretionary decisions. The way that the subdivision ordinance was written, was requiring the zoning administrator to make discretionary decisions when it came to determining when performance guarantees were required. So Susan Taylor Ash, the town attorney, recommended that we revise this section so that this discretionary decision regarding when performance guarantees are required is instead made by the Planning and Zoning Commission and not the zoning administrator. Next slide, please. So this whole section is related to performance guarantees. That was the major part of this ordinance that needed to be revised. It's how much a performance guarantee can be, how can you extend the duration of a performance guarantee, what's included in it, things of that nature. Next slide, please. Again, more performance guarantee stuff. Next slide, please. Okay. We changed variances in the subdivision ordinance to be under the Board of Adjustment. Board of Adjustment hears the variances for the rest of the town's development ordinance. So it didn't make much sense to keep one variance procedure under planning and zoning and the rest under Board of Adjustment. We also corrected the appeals procedure to reflect what's outlined in the general statute rather than a completely different procedure. Corrected some references, and there was a strange requirement for a copy of the town's subdivision ordinance to be filed with the Register of Deeds. So we took that out as well. I'm not sure where that came from. Next slide. So that's the end of the state statute revisions. And again, that text, anything that had to do with state statute was copy and pasted from 160D into our ordinance. The next thing we did was added a couple of definitions. Minor subdivision, so there's a difference in subdivision, minor or major. Minor subdivision wasn't defined in the ordinance, which, as I'm sure you guys can imagine, presented a big problem because there are two different procedures. So I drafted a definition for minor subdivision based off of comparable jurisdictions. I used Maggie Valley and Clyde because they're both small, have small staff and similar terrain to Montreat. And then the board, the Planning and Zoning Commission helped refine that definition. They also wanted to add several other definitions. Some we pulled from the general statute, others we drafted ourselves. Next slide, please. Okay. And then clarifications. There was a lot of vague references, a lot of different ways that people referred to the zoning administrator. Town administrator was still referenced in there. General sentence structure. You know, we just did a general cleanup to make sure that the ordinance was clear and enforceable. Next slide, please. So in summary, these amendments bring the subdivision ordinance into compliance with the state statute revisions. It adds definitions and it clarifies and corrects certain terms, responsible parties, and references in the ordinance. So as I said, at the November 10th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of this text amendment, including their recommendations. So that's all I have on this text amendment.
Yeah, I'll move to approve text amendment TA 2022-01.
Second.
Yep.
Aye.
Yes, but we did change some of the processes. Next slide, please. So this text amendment is amendments to the wireless communications ordinance. In summary, this was initiated to bring the ordinance into compliance with 160D. We also removed some antiquated references and provided corrections and clarifications. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this text amendment at the November 10th meeting and voted 7-0 to approve with some additional amendments. As a note, the Planning and Zoning Commission asked that I go in and add articles and sections and make it better organized. Those amendments aren't included in my presentation, but the overall organizational structure of the ordinance is included in your packet. Next slide. So the major state statute revision is that the ordinance still required conditional use permits, which are no longer usable in North Carolina. So anything that required a conditional use permit went to a special use permit. Conditional use permits were a strange quasi-judicial legislative type of permit, where special use permits are just quasi-judicial. They're issued by the Board of Adjustment. They have strict findings of fact. So that's what we'll be using moving forward. Next slide. So there was a reference to the Preservation Commission and certificates of appropriateness required as part of the development review. As far as I can tell, the Preservation Commission no longer exists, and certificates of appropriateness are related to historic districts, not wireless communications facilities. Yes. Yeah, so certificates of appropriateness are related to historic districts. They don't have anything to do with wireless communications facilities. We also went in and revised the procedure to amend the ordinance. The way that it's currently written, the ordinance can only be revised annually. So we changed that so that anytime an amendment is proposed, it can be heard. The Planning and Zoning Commission also, they made the last revision. They wanted to eliminate the ability for the town manager to unilaterally revoke town and antenna use permits, which are wireless communications facility permits, and the associated processes. They also eliminated the ability for the town manager to review and amend the ordinance unilaterally. Now, the only body that has that power is the Board of Commissioners. If we want to revisit that at a later date, as far as whether we want that in there or not, we can definitely do that. Next slide. And then again, clarifications. Who is the zoning administrator? It's not the planning director, not the zoning official, things of that nature. Next slide, please. So again, state statute revisions, correct amendment procedures, and add clarification. And as I said, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 7-0 to approve this with additional amendments that are incorporated. That's all I have on this one. Seven zero. Yep.
Okay, commissioners, I'll entertain a motion if someone's so inclined.
I will move that we adopt this text amendment, TA 2022-02 for wireless communications ordinance.
Okay, motion by Mayor Pro Tem Blake, second from Commissioner Widmer. Any further discussion and or questions?
Yes, Kayla, you are well aware, as we are, that we've received some comments from community members about health issues related to wireless communication. Could you comment on that and why it wasn't considered?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's three pieces to that, to the comments that we all received. The first is that the scope of this ordinance, of this text amendment, was to bring the ordinance into compliance. The only content changes that were made were things that only able to amend an ordinance annually, unilateral powers. That was the limit of the content revisions. So that was outside of the scope of this amendment. The second piece is the Telecommunications Act of 1996. That act states that you can't have development regulations based on environmental health effects, which includes human health effects of cell towers, essentially. Yeah, that you it's not legal to regulate cell towers from a development regulation perspective based on environmental health effects, which includes human health effects. Now, what I will say in response is that there is definitely space to look at the development regulations as far as the zoning districts that future cell towers are allowed in, things like screening, fencing, lighting. We can certainly revisit those aspects in response to that letter.
I'd like to just reiterate.
Sure, Mason.
Exactly what Kayla said, that all these changes were housekeeping. And there was no consideration earlier by the Planning and Zoning Commission or evidence taken or anything else on any substantive changes to the ordinance. This was all housekeeping.
Yes.
And there's nothing that prevents us from taking a look at substantive changes in a very deliberate and appropriate way. But this was just simply housekeeping changes. That's all we're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely.
But let me at the same time thank both for this ordinance and the other text amendment. You, Kayla, for the excellent job you did, and the Planning and Zoning Commission for the excellent job they did. It is, although it ain't all that complicated, it's very painstaking. It really is, because you're trying to find dot I's and cross T's that got changed, and it's not fun work. You guys did a terrific job. You in particular.
Thank you. And I will say, and Josh can attest to this, we did go line by line in the
Yeah,
subdivision.
it's hard work.
ordinance.
It's hard work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll share those sentiments with the.
Anyone else? Have a motion and have a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? Ayes carry. Kayla, you're still up. This transportation study came about in my chairing the comprehensive planning committee. Had a lot of questions and so forth, or concerns by some of the committee members early on about the amount of traffic on Assembly Drive and the speed and so forth and so on. So when I saw the Metropolitan plant MPO had a grant more or less of $25,000, which would cost us $5,000 for a traffic study. I asked Kayla to enter it to see, if it's something you guys were interested in or not. Kayla?
Yeah. So I'll just I will try to be brief. So as the mayor said, he reached out about the French Broad River Metropolitan Organization's Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP. So this is a funding opportunity for short-range transportation planning activities within the MPO's region, which Montreat is a part of for the next fiscal year. So the program only contains $200,000 total for all applications. The program also requires applicants. So in this case, it would be the town of Montreat to provide a 20% cost match for the overall project cost. Applications are due December 19th, and projects will be announced in the summer or fall of 2023. So as the mayor said, speed, increasing traffic amounts, those concerns have continued to arise throughout the comprehensive planning process. And in response to that, my recommendation is for the town to submit a request. Should the commissioners be interested in pursuing this, my recommendation would be a funding request for $25,000, which means the MPO would provide $20,000 and the town would be financially on the hook for $5,000. Under the UPWP, for a transportation study that's focused on traffic calming for the length of Assembly Drive from the gate up to Assembly Circle. So right now, the Board of Commissioners does not need to formally commit to the cost share, but we will need to provide a commitment letter no later than July 1st, 2023. So we can certainly submit an application, but we will need to provide that cost share commitment letter by July 1st of next year. Should the application be awarded, I will request that the French Broad River MPO staff manage the project, and I'll serve as a supporting role. That has a couple benefits associated with it and no cost. I confirm that. These are the transportation experts. They will solicit the consultant. My time will stay with the town. And the other part is that since this is a reimbursement program, if the MPO staff is managing it, the MPO will pay out the amount and then we will give them our $5,000 rather than us paying out 25,000 and waiting for reimbursement. Yeah, so that's the benefit of that. So I just want to talk quickly. Traffic calming is a collection of methods that slow cars down. These methods can have external benefits, such as improving the bicycle pedestrian environment as well. Let's see. So again, we would use an outside consultant. It would be very similar to the comprehensive plan process. They would solicit public input, look at existing conditions, draft recommendations, and then bring them to the town for approval. Let's see. So I included in your memo a transportation study that was done for the town of Biltmore Forest. And I did speak to their town manager about what that process was like, what was the outcome, and he did speak positively of it. They've implemented some of the changes, such as a four-way stop, and that's yielded good results for that town. One thing that I do want to note is that in my experience, I've come across several grant programs that favor projects where studies have been done. So grants that would fund implementation. So sometimes in a point system, a project that has done planning studies, which are hard to fund with grants, projects that have done planning studies scored better because there was a clear indication of a need in the community for implementation funding. It's not for every grant, but I have seen it pop up a couple of times. So in sum, tonight I'm requesting direction from the Board of Commissioners on submitting an application to the French Broad River MPO UPWP call for projects for $25,000 with a $5,000 cost share by the town for a transportation study that is limited in scope to traffic calming for Assembly Drive from the Montreat Gate to Assembly Circle.
Okay, Chair will entertain a motion to either apply or not apply. It's up to you guys, whatever you think.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we apply for the application under the French Broad River MPO's Unified Planning Work Program for $25,000 to conduct a transportation study limited to examining traffic calming for North Carolina 9 Assembly Drive.
I have a motion from Commissioner Whitmer. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second from Commissioner Alexander. Discussion?
Are we talking about $25,000 just to study traffic on the 1 mile from the gate to the lake?
Yep.
See, It's awfully expensive per foot.
I would agree with you, Kitty. It is expensive, but I think in my own thinking about it, and that's my first absolute reaction was, geez, that's a lot of money. But with this being the main, avenue in our town that everybody drives, I think I think the benefit of that money, and the reason I think I'm going to be voting in favor of this motion is because the public process of deciding what goes in there will get a public consensus. It can only be done with a process like this. Without that public consensus, we could put up some speed bumps that will be torn out 6 months later. And so it's not really the planning that we're getting out of this. It's the process of developing a community consensus and agreement on what should be done. So I think, although I agree with you entirely, it seems like a lot of expense. I think that's the process that we really want to do anyway to truly get community buy-in on something that's fun.
May I add something? So I've had a chance just informally to look at the draft goals and objectives for the comprehensive plan, and doing a study of this nature in this area was listed in those goals and objectives. I also reviewed the bicycle, pedestrian, and greenways plan from 2008. A similar recommendation was made. And I understand that $25,000 for a study seems outrageous, but I will say Biltmore study, Biltmore Town, excuse me, Town of Biltmore Forest. They paid $20,000 for their study, and that was 3 years ago during the pandemic. So if you guys don't want to commit to $20,000 total project, $25,000 total project cost with a $5,000 cost share, we can certainly lower that and, you know, put it in, see what comes out. I will say that, you know, in my experience, consultants are good about kind of cafeteria planning it, saying, this is the amount of money we have, here's what we can do. Well, we don't really want this, we really want this. So it's definitely a back and forth of what we would get out of the plan. So that's additional piece of information.
I have a extremely hard time getting behind this. Extremely hard. I think $25,000 is ridiculous amount of money for a 1 mile stretch. It's not Biltmore Forest, in all due respect. I hear what you're saying, community involvement, but I think we can get community involvement for free. We got a good, strong, with a lot of smart people here. If we set a committee up, we could talk about this till the cows come home and figure out ways. And coming from Raleigh and seeing what's going on in Raleigh, seeing what's going on in Cary, in different neighborhoods, these traffic mitigation slowing down are disasters, in my opinion. You know, where my home office is in Raleigh, there are speed bumps, fire trucks can't stand them. It would jar your teeth out, and they've taken them out. They've gone back in and put them back in, as you just suggested in that. I'm trying to think, you know, what would we do, with the exception of putting a three-way stop up by the post office, to somewhat mitigate? I look at how many officers we have now, 6, 7, 5. Okay, you know, I feel like we've got some tools in our tool belt right now to put some officers out and look at ways. I'm all about figuring out ways to slow it down, but I sure have a hard time wrapping my mind around 25,000, even 5,000 out of our pocket at this moment. And I think a couple of years ago, this board did look at a three-way stop, and, you know, the pros and the cons. So again, I want to be open-minded about it, but I have a hard time jumping on the money bandwagon there.
And like I said, if you guys want to do a different amount, that's perfectly fine. If you don't want to do anything, that's fine too.
So 25,000 is an estimate on your part in terms
Yeah.
of sizing the grant.
Yeah.
But we could bid it out and it could cost less than 25,000.
If you bid it out at $25,000
You'll get it.
or around there. Yeah. That's my experience. Yes.
But you say Town of Biltmore Forest was about 20,000 several years.
It was
Why-
20,000 during the pandemic.
Which is why you came up with 25.
How large an area, how many roads were in Biltmore Forest?
It was definitely larger. But I did have help in soliciting this estimate. I mean, it was, you know, informal, off the books. And I would put a lot of weight into the estimate that was given to me. But again, you guys can put forth what you're comfortable with. Again, don't have to put forth anything. What I will say is that I would be curious as to someone who is a core transportation planner, which I'm not. I'm a land use planner. I like regulations. I like zoning. I'm not a transportation planner. So I have no idea what the solutions would be. And so the reason that, you know, I would support bringing an expert in is because I would be curious as to what they could come up with. Because you're right. I mean, my solution would be speed bumps, maybe. But again, I'm not someone who's knows what's going on in that realm as far as what the options would be.
And again, and wanting to be respectful to your comment there, I just feel like when you bring in the experts, they're going to come up with something because they gotta justify their existence. And I just feel like we've got a good source of wisdom here within our community that I would like to tap first before we go seek someone. Again, we're talking one road, a 1 mile stretch, just up to Assembly. And I'd like to think that we could figure some things out prior. And if we can, then maybe we revisit it.
I'm looking at Biltmore Forest example that you put in here. Most of what was suggested there is not possible on Assembly Drive.
Yeah, this was the This was the only recent local study that I could find. Yeah. So I agree with you. But the intent in providing that example was more for the public participation, the ways that they engage the community to solicit the responses, not necessarily the responses, because Montreat is so unique and will require something highly contextual to be effective.
But this process, and I'm agreeing with Kent in the sense that this process will bring all our community resources into bear, but it will bring them under the leadership of transportation planners.
Mhm. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, motion's on the floor. Have a second. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes lost, noes carry. All right, next item on the agenda is public comment. Thank you, Kayla.
Hi, sorry. Public comment? Okay, the Board of Adjustment will not be meeting in December. The Planning and Zoning will be releasing new forms online in January, which is really exciting. So I just wanted to let everybody know that. And as far as the transportation study goes, if we ever do want to revisit in the future, I'll definitely keep my eyes open for funding. Okay. Great. Thanks, guys.
Any other public comment? Commissioners' communication?
Yeah, I'll jump in, Commissioner. So we moved on to public comment. Correct? Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Your public comments over. Commissioners' communication. now.
Okay. Was it the Buncombe County School Superintendent? That was the gentleman that spoke?
Yeah.
You know, one of the words when he stepped up to the mic, never seen the gentleman before, but I think shortly, and he just said how blessed he was to be back in this valley. And it just reminded me, and it reminds me sometimes when we as commissioners somewhat butt heads, you know, in a respectful way. And that's part of our job, you know, as commissioners. But I'm reminded of the beauty of this this valley here. And I think about the beauty of the MRA, what they provide here, our college, what our staff, not to be slighted whatsoever, what y'all provide here. Certainly, you know, our neighboring town, Black Mountain, the relationship we have there. And then the people of this community. And so as we're sort of in the season of Thanksgiving and Christmas, you know, again, I think his word is we're blessed, and I'm reminded of that as we do our business and butt heads. I'm reminded of, again, what a wonderful community it is. And so I appreciate, in fact, I would say Merry Christmas to the community, and then just appreciate the opportunity to serve and serve along with my fellow commissioners and mayor.
Thank you, Kent. Any other commissioners' comments tonight?
I'm going to encourage everybody to go online to the Land Care Committee and read their minutes. They are a busy group of people, and it's getting late, so I'm not going to try to go over all that they've done, but that group works hard and they do a lot for Montreat, and we need to keep up and cheer them on.
Tom?
I'd like to remind the community that the second half of bear season starts on December the 12th. I think that's Monday, and will continue on through January 2nd. So just be aware of that.
Jay? Okay, Mason?
I just heard there are a number of people interested in as we were in this Christmas season is to see Montreat even brighter and more festive in our Christmas decorations next year as a community. And I think there's some grassroots effort going on, and just want to know that effort has my support, and to the extent that the town can help make that effort successful as the year progresses, I'd love for the town to do that. But I'm sure it'll be like all things in Montreat. It'll be a collaborative effort by all our leading organizations.
We can increase that traffic net. People coming in to look at our
Thank you, ma'am.
decorations.
Right. Anyone else? Okay, dates to remember, no tree board meeting in December, Board of Adjustment meeting date to be determined if necessary. Town offices are going to be closed the 26th of December and the 27th in observance of Christmas holiday. Sanitation will resume on Wednesday, the 28th. Town offices closed January 2nd in observance for New Year's. Sanitation services resume on January the 3rd, Tuesday. Land care, Wednesday, January the 4th at 9 a.m. in Town Hall. Planning and zoning, Thursday, January 12th at 10:30 a.m. in Town Hall. January Town Council meeting, Thursday, January the 12th at 7 p.m. in Town Hall. Public forum begins at 6:30. Town offices are closed January 16th in observance of Martin Luther King birthday. Sanitation services will resume on Tuesday, the 17th. Tree board, January the 24th at 9:30 a.m. in Town Hall. I think that's all of them. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before you do that, can I just remind everybody that even though sanitation will be pushed out 2 days, the convenience center is open 24/7.
Okay. Motion to adjourn. I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Blake. Do I have a second? Second from Commissioner Otto. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Ah.
We stand adjourned till next year.